Welcome to the Zimbabwe investment presentation, where we are focusing on the amazing nation of Zimbabwe with some of our esteemed colleagues from the country. With us today, we have our ambassador, His Excellency Lovemore Mazema. We have the CEO of the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, Tafadzo Chinamo. We have Dr. Mavis Sibanda, who's our Permanent Secretary of Industry and Commerce. And we also have Rungano Inesenyaude, who heads up the Zimbabwean Business Council as its chairman. My name is Mochanyandoro, and I'll be moderating today's session. Just to contextualize a nation that we're extremely proud of, we thought it might be a good idea to start off with our ambassador, please. His Excellency, would you please come and perhaps from here, just give an overview of Zimbabwe. Please welcome His Excellency, Mr. Mazema.
Thank you, Mucha. Welcome to the Zimbabwe Business Forum at the 12th Annual Investment Meeting. As the man who stands on one foot in Harare, Zimbabwe, and another foot in Abu Dhabi, the UAE, I would like to give you an assurance that the two governments are doing everything possible to create an enabling environment by putting in place bilateral frameworks that encourage business to government, business to business, and people to people movement. Since our arrival at this meeting, we are enjoying several parallel series of consultations. To begin with, we are enjoying discussions on expansion and growth with those companies that are already doing business in our country, Zimbabwe. I can disclose to you that we have as many as 26 companies domiciled in the UAE that are already doing business in Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking for number 27. I wish I could auction jersey number 27 right here this morning. But I know we will get number 27 and even more, because in another series of consultations, we are discussing the very next steps with a number of companies whose investment projects are at various stages of maturity, deployment in the country. We also have another series that is with companies that are still exploring and prospecting for business opportunities in Zimbabwe. We have also been enjoying conversations with a number of people that are reminiscing over the good times that they had when they were visiting Zimbabwe, either for meetings or international conferences, or who went there as tourists and we're seeking investments in that sector also. And some have been talking about the high adrenaline activities, such as bungee jumping on the Victoria Falls Bridge, zip lining, and whitewater rafting on the mighty Zambezi River. So although today we're going to be focusing on a few select areas, I can assure you that there is definitely something for everybody. I have no doubt that at the end of our engagement this morning, we will yield another batch, another crop of sustainable conversations on creating partnerships with you. We are here this morning together with the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency to give you absolute assurances that with us, you are in safe hands. Just like we are more than persuaded that with you, we are in good hands. And this is why we flew all the way to this place for yet another opportunity to unveil this investment field called Zimbabwe, this destination called Zimbabwe, and this marketplace called Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, the dialogue begins. Welcome to Zimbabwe, and thank you for your attention. Back to you, Michelle.
Actually, I might take the remainder from here because we're going to have a presentation next. I'm not sure if my microphone is connected. Can you hear me all right? Our next segment is really a little bit more of a deep dive from the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency that will be presented by Mr. Tafadzwa. Yes, so you're going to start with the video, but part of that video is kind of giving an overview, if you like, of Zimbabwe, and then we'll go into a bit more of a deep dive discussion. So if you can spare a few minutes, please, and watch this video with us, and that gives an added context to the nation that we're ever so proud of.
Welcome to Zimbabwe. We are delighted to show you all the opportunities that await you in Zimbabwe, as we are here to inspire you to invest in our country. Zimbabwe is home to vast mineral resources, arable land, and rich water resources. There are great opportunities in mining, agriculture, and value chains across all sectors of the economy, and we want you to be part of it.
Mining in Zimbabwe is the backbone of the country's economy. We have vast mineral wealth in gold, iron, lithium, platinum, diamonds, chrome, coal, and many other precious minerals. And with recent developments in technology and electric cars, lithium has become an essential element in our daily lives. And right here in Zimbabwe, we have access to some of the largest and most high-quality lithium deposits in the world.
With our focus on beneficiation, we invite you to take advantage of high-quality metals to create new industries across the various mining verticals that can help to deliver high-quality products to your domestic markets, whilst taking advantage of our special economic zones that can create faster returns on investment for you and your business.
The potential for growth and profitability in mining is immense for investors and many foreign and local businesses that have taken the opportunity to spearhead their own success. And we at Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency are prepared to make the process of investing in mining seamless and efficient.
Zimbabwe is renowned for its fertile soil and climate, and agriculture plays a key role in our economy. Our fertile land and abundant water resources are suitable for a variety of crops and livestock. We offer vast opportunities in horticulture, livestock, and cereal farming.
You can rest assured that our skilled farmers, favorable climate and soil, sufficient water sources, and access to local and regional markets, investing in the agriculture industry in Zimbabwe will be a wise decision.
Take advantage of over 60% of the population making an income through agriculture to create networks of local farmers ready to focus on the crop production stages, allowing you to create export-ready products and services aimed at the markets you serve.
This reality is being achieved in areas of cooking oil product, blueberry export, tobacco, chia seed exports, and so much more. With agricultural production in Zimbabwe set to reach nearly $6 billion, the sky is the limit for what you can achieve in the industry.
These gains couldn't be achieved without ensuring that the support networks in transport, energy, and irrigation are working hand in hand to make all these opportunities a reality. We have several rivers, lakes, and dams that provide an excellent source of water for irrigation. And with more than 33 million hectares of arable land, our potential in irrigated and mechanized agriculture is immense.
Our government has allocated funds for irrigation systems across the country, and we invite investors to join our efforts to promote sustainable agriculture and create jobs in our country.
At the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, we guarantee a safe and conducive investment environment, and through our one-stop investment services center, we provide investors with privileged access to information on investment opportunities, available incentives, and the legal and institutional framework across all sectors of the economy.
So why wait? Contact Zida today and learn more about the many investment opportunities in Zimbabwe. Let's grow together and create a better future for everyone. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in Zimbabwe.
One of the instructions there was to contact Zida. We actually have Zida in the room today and the head of that organization. So if you could just perhaps give our audience a bit more of a deep dive on what you're doing at Zida and how they might learn a bit more from this event.
Okay, thank you very much, and a very good morning to you all. What you just seen there is just in 5 minutes what is possible in Zimbabwe, or the potential that we have in Zimbabwe for investment. So if I had the time, I would really like to go through every single opportunity, but we don't have much time. So I'll just focus on, perhaps just add on to what you saw there just now. And I'll start with mining. We could go into the numbers of how much reserves we have of various things. But you saw there, I think lithium, it's very much an in vogue metal these days. I think electric vehicles in particular, and just the use of batteries is a really big thing. There is a lot of that in Zimbabwe. We've not even begun to understand how much of that resource is available. But I can tell you this, of every miner that we've issued a license to in the past 2 years, they've all extracted more ore than they could imagine. But exercise is underway right now to actually ascertain or to determine how much of that is there. Gold, we've always had gold for centuries. Chrome, nickel, and platinum. I think we rank among the highest, a country with the highest deposits in all these things. But where is the investment in this? What is it that we are here to talk to you about? Is that being the potential for investment? In Zimbabwe, we've had mining for over 100 years. And I'm talking large-scale mining. Any large company you can think of in mining has had operations in Zimbabwe. You're talking of the Anglo-Americans, the De Beers, they've all been through Zimbabwe. And today, they are still there. So the extraction of that mineral has never been a problem for us. What we are emphasizing now, as the video showed you, is the beneficiation of that, right? We reached a stage in some point in our history where our ability to process those minerals lagged behind. With lack of investment, we now find ourselves in a situation, a lot of what we are digging up the ground is just being processed to the barest minimum and then being shipped out the country. So the government has deliberately said that the policy of the government is going to be beneficiation. We are going to focus on ensuring that, be it iron ore, that we produce steel out of that, and out of that steel, other industry come and make better use of that steel. If you're talking of chrome or platinum, instead of just making the concentrate and the matte, we want that final metal in its various forms to be done in Zimbabwe. Lithium, it's another one. You saw those big rocks, big nice white rocks. Right now they're being crushed, just brought down to a level that's enough to export out the country. But as you can see, you can imagine here in the GCC that if your oil business was all about exporting crude, we would not be seeing the sort of infrastructure that we have. So it's the same sort of thing. And this is what the government is emphasizing, that we are willing to work with you to give you the incentives. I hate to use that word, but yes, for this, we are willing to talk to you about how that beneficiation can take place. So for me, that is the main area of investment. But if you also like digging the ore out the ground and beneficiating it, you are more than welcome. I think in any mineral that you can think of, we have an established ecosystem already that's been vibrant for over 100 years. And mining in Zimbabwe, it's not government controlled. It is all private sector. All the things you are seeing there is private sector. It has always been private sector. So this beneficiation, why is it not happening? Like I said, the main thing is obviously lack of investment. I'm talking here investment in terms of the actual machinery and equipment that is required. Those things that you saw, they cost a lot of money. To put up a smelter or a refinery is not cheap. Because of our recent history, we not have had much access to international financing. So a lot of what you're seeing there has been achieved by local resources, but obviously there are limitations. So this is the opportunity that I'm giving you. I'm also talking of rail to move product from the mines to the harbors or to the ports is very inefficient if you do it by roads. We have a very well-established railway network. The lines are there, but the rolling stock is not there. So you've got a lot of these mines digging up a lot of product, but without an efficient way of taking this out of the country. So for me, that's another investment opportunity. Electricity is another one. So when we speak to these mines that why are you not beneficiating more, they'll tell you these things that look, if there was a reliable railway network, I'll definitely do it. Perhaps if there was more reliable electricity, I could do it. So that's another opportunity. The demand is there, but the investment right now is just not there. So, and the benefits that we see in this, and this is where the government is really bending over backwards to say, come and invest in Zimbabwe. Once you start beneficiating metals or minerals from the ground, you can imagine the sort of industries that you can start talking about. In our context in Africa, Zimbabwe is fairly industrialized. There is nothing that we cannot produce that we don't produce in Zimbabwe. But the level of production is being affected by this lack of investment that I'm talking. So that for me is the opportunity. The raw materials for that is there. If I go to the next sector that we spoke about, that's agriculture. I know a lot of you who've heard about Zimbabwe, maybe the only thing you heard about Zimbabwe is how it used to produce such great agricultural produce. Now the thing about agriculture, it's only one season away. It's not like a mine that requires 5 years or 10 years to establish. Agriculture in one season, you can be back on top of that, because what do you need? You just need the land, which is there, good climate is there, and our climate is such that, especially for horticulture, we are in that part of the world where when Europe is in winter or the northern hemisphere is in winter, that is our peak season. And so we're talking of flowers, you saw there's some blueberries, these superfoods that we talk about, that is our potential. So for us, agriculture is really a low-hanging fruit, if I could use that term. It just takes one season. So what investment are we talking about? The land is there, right? But in our part of the world, the vagaries of the weather, with climate change and so forth, it's never reliable. You can't rely on rainfall. So as you saw in the video, we have a lot of waterways. A lot of that has been dammed. Last year, we commissioned the largest inland dam that we've ever built, in Zimbabwe, Tokwe Mukosi. Now, this is a massive dam. We've also got another huge dam, which I think appears in one of these pictures, the Kariba Dam, which generates our hydro as well. But this dam is an inland dam. It's totally within Zimbabwe. And its primary purpose was to provide water for irrigation. That dam alone, the government has set aside 40,000 hectares for someone to develop, or rather investors to develop that 40,000 hectares with irrigation. And like I'm saying, for me, our biggest or greatest potential or ability to satisfy the world is in horticulture. I'm talking of fruit and vegetables, of nuts, things like avocados, citrus. It's ideal, 40,000 hectares, just try and imagine that that's a huge piece of land. So for me, that is not a problem. Now, and you also saw there was a statistic, 121,000 tons of horticulture produce. That's a lot of tonnage. And it pains me to tell you that a lot of that is wasted, because fruit and vegetables have to be kept fresh, which means storage or cold chain supplies. So from the farm to the supermarket, in between there, the logistics that pick that produce from the farm, keep it in storage. You need nowadays, I think, modern ways of doing that and to reduce wastage. But we waste quite a lot of that tonnage. Unfortunately, we are not exporting enough. Now, we are producing that, like I said, with very little investment or domestically generated investment, and we said that we've got 33 million hectares of arable land. less than 10% of that is fully utilized right now. So you can imagine the potential of what agriculture does for us. So for me, the opportunities, especially for this part of the world, we're not very far away. Some of the things like flowers, horticulture flowers, or even your blueberries, your lettuce, those can be air freighted, and they flights every day into Qatar, into here, I think Dubai and in Dubai and into Qatar. Every single day there's a flight. Air freight is come up. So that horticulture, so that agriculture potential exists for investors, not only to satisfy the domestic market, but to also improve profitability by reducing wastage and also opening up to other exports. Now, agriculture and minerals, these are primary raw materials. Beneficiation, as the video said, is the key of what we want to do. Now, the thing about Zimbabwe, and I'm sure you've heard this quite a lot, is that we've been industrialized in various forms for a very long time. When I was growing up, all our supermarkets only had Zimbabwean products. From clothes right through to the supermarket, it was all Zimbabwean products. We are back now to about 80% of our supermarkets are staffed with Zimbabwean products, and there's nothing that you won't find. How is that possible? I think our people have been lauded the world over for their work ethic and intellect. And it's there. The largest single platinum mine in Africa is in Zimbabwe. It's called Zimplats, right? It turns over plus or minus $3 billion a year. From the person at the gate who lets you in to the CEO, they're all Zimbabweans. They've been Zimbabweans for the past, ever since it was established. That is the sort of brain power that we have. Manufacturing for us, therefore, so if you're investing in Zimbabwe, you don't worry about lack of skills. In any field, be it medical care, hospitality, we can provide that. So that is there. Also, the infrastructure, the supply chains to all these industries is there. But again, my point is that it's lacking investment, and that for me is the big ticket. Now, not only to supply the domestic market, which might not excite a lot of the bigger investors, because you're talking of a population of less than 20 million people, but the wider Africa, this part of the world, and the entire world, this, I believe, is the biggest opportunity. So the infrastructure that we require, raw materials we've got, the people we've got, infrastructure is where, again, is another huge opportunity. I'm talking here railroads, but more importantly, and this is my third area that I just want to end off with, is electricity. If you've been following the news, the entire Southern Africa has been affected by lack of electricity, and that affects productivity. You cannot bring an investor to set up a smelter that must run 24 hours a day if your electricity is intermittent, if there are hours where there's no electricity. So our climate, I think it's ideal for solar investment. The investors you saw there from the UAE, a lot of those, a number of those are actually in renewable energy. So for us, solar is a big opportunity. The government, because of the deficit that we currently have of electricity, is more than willing to talk to you about, what you would require as an investor to set up these farms. We have not even scratched the surface of what this can do. And I think the assurance that there is a deficit already, for any businessman, the demand is there. The ability to pay, again, is there. People speak about inflation in Zimbabwe. Yes, we've heard our problems there, but we are getting to a stage now where I would say 80% of the transactions in business in Zimbabwe are now in US dollars. So any investor who comes into Zimbabwe, I can assure you, your revenue can be 100% in dollars. And taking out that the country as dividend or profit is never going to be a problem. So solar, for me, big opportunity. Now, you also heard that I'm from the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, so we are the investment promotion agents of the country. The government created that specifically to ensure that whatever bottlenecks investors have, those things are straightened out. And my boss, my immediate boss, is His Excellency the President of the country, and it's deliberate to the extent that it gives me the ability to address whatever issues we have with any government department or any ministry. And we've done that very well. And I really challenge anyone who knows any of the companies coming up there to just share with you the experience that they have had. So we are here in the UAE to reinforce what we believe is an opportunity that is for many years gone unnoticed, gone untapped, and we cannot let you out of this secret anymore. I can tell you that last year, through our agency, we licensed, just last year alone, 267 new investors from all over the world and across all sectors. But the ones I've spoken about perhaps were the most, I think, exciting. We would like to see more from this part of the world. Right? And in terms of dollars, how much those investors actually brought in, we're talking of just under $2 billion. So it's an economy that is there. You are not starting from ground zero. I think if there was ever a restart, and in my view, I think kickstarting an economy that has all the potential is much, much easier prospect for any investor than breaking new ground. I could go on, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm really very excited that you are here to hear about these opportunities. We have a booth down the hall there. I urge you that after this, engage me and my team or any of the panelists here to learn more about these opportunities. And hopefully, as the video said, in the not too distant future, we'll see you in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so I suppose for those of you who've been able to build a picture between the video and that presentation of what opportunities exist in Zimbabwe, I'm sure you're starting to pick up on some key themes, like within agriculture, we have our counter-seasonality, we've got access to market, we've got high-grade commodities, so there's a lot of positive momentum for the nation of Zimbabwe. And to really contextualize this further, if I might start with you, please, Dr. Sibanda. When you consider that 72% of our population is aged between 0 to 32, so we've got a young 35, we've got a young population in Zimbabwe, high literacy rates that sit in the 70% quartile. It's worth perhaps just giving our prospective investors in the room a context of how the government is working towards creating an enabling environment for value addition, for beneficiation of produce coming out of Zimbabwe and commodities more broadly.
Your Excellency, CEO of ZIDA and all esteemed visitors. Yes, it is true that Zimbabwe has a huge young population. The government is doing a lot to ensure that the young population is directed to education which will help the industry and government. We've introduced what we call at the universities Education 5.0, whereby our students are taught, instead of just going to university to just read and cram and get your degrees, they are actually, we have set in some incubation hubs. They are, whatever, they are allowed to dream and formulate, create, and whatever their dreams, they are allowed to go and experiment in these incubation hubs. We have quite a lot of creations which our young university students have actually come up with a lot of new things which we are doing in Zimbabwe. I'll just give an example. With the assistance of the universities, Zimbabwe is now exporting oxygen, medical oxygen. This is with the help of the universities. There is a lot going on in Zimbabwe. Just to add to what my colleague, Mr. Shinamo, said about the beneficiation of our raw materials. Zimbabwe has got so much minerals, we don't know, at times we don't even know what we have, except those which have been mentioned or which have been discovered. I believe that whenever you are working on a mineral which we don't know. It is just yesterday that people did not know that the rocks which they were using to build their granaries were actually lithium. We just discovered because we didn't know. So there is a lot of minerals in Zimbabwe. However, it is government's policy that we should encourage value addition. We are actually saying we should do the value addition, the products should be exported value added. So for that reason, we are inviting you as potential investors to come and do value addition so that you add value to the products which we have. I'm not talking about lithium only. There are so many products which are being mined. Chrome, I'm sure my colleague has talked about that we need to manufacture steel. We have a new company which has started, which has just invested millions of dollars in that, in the steel production, mining ore and processing. If they are going to be processing the ore into steel, because they also own some chrome ore mines. So there is a lot which can happen, which you as investors can come in. You don't have to mine, but you can process what the miners are doing. And that is a very good value chain. In our national development strategy, government prioritized 10 value chains. I will not have to mention all of them, but just to mention that we have got cotton to clothing. We have very good cotton in Zimbabwe. And government wants us to do the value chain to process the cotton from the plant up to the cloth you are wearing. So what we are saying is there is there are investment opportunities in between the value chains. You can pick wherever you want to fit. You can pick the in the value chain of soya value chain. You can come in the bus and truck. I know I've just been discussing with one of the participants here, inviting him to come and assemble buses in Zimbabwe. That will be very good, because when you are investing in Zimbabwe, please don't think of investing in Zimbabwe. Maybe you are looking at our small population. If you come and invest in your, like for instance, you are doing the, you are bringing your buses CKD, and they are assembled in Zimbabwe. Look at the African market, because we've got this FCTA. You can use Zimbabwe as a springboard. Zimbabweans are people with highly developed skills. We have been in the industry, we've been industrialized for a long time. Yes, we went into a dip. Let me assure you, because of the government policies which are in place, we've got a number of companies which were under judicial management, or should I say, which were almost were failing companies. They have now been resuscitated. They are now functional. If you go to Harare, if you go to Bulawayo, you will see massive construction projects of companies which are expanding their operations, which shows that there is very good, government has got good policies which are actually encouraging people to invest. The labor force in Zimbabwe is, can I say, is the best, because other than the education, they have experience. So just to add to what my colleague has said, look at agriculture. We have got so many things. Yes, horticulture, we can export it. We can export lettuce fresh as it is. But when it comes to other products, there is massive opportunities for you to come and do the value addition of different products from what we are actually growing in the country.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. And I suppose feeding into that is the question that I'll direct to you, please, Tafanzo, if I may, which is around the incentives that exist for investors who might be looking to come into Zimbabwe. How do we incentivize investors to seek out Zimbabwe perhaps over some other regional players?
Yeah, so for us, the main incentive for any investor, I think, is the opportunity itself. That there is a lot to benefit by investing in Zimbabwe. Like I've said, The Zimbabwean economy is driven primarily by the private sector. So the industries we're talking about here is mainly private sector driven. So you are coming into an environment that already has a lot of players. But the incentives that we really want is what can we do to encourage that capital that we've lacked for so many years to complement what we already have. So without blanketing it and saying that there are these incentives, our incentives are very project specific and very sector specific. But in brief, I'd like to say that incentives are always geared to export generation and transfer of technology, innovation, those sort of things. And in those cases, we are talking of tax holidays of up to 10 years, even in some cases. We're also talking of duty-free importation of equipment that can also happen. But things like you bringing expatriate staff, we've never had a problem with that, so that's never always been a problem. Retention of profits, there is no retention of profits at all. You can own 100% of your business in Zimbabwe. You don't have to partner locals, or the government doesn't insist on it having a share, unless of course it's public-private partnerships where you are going into partnership with government. I know that a few years ago we had a law that was quite unpopular with investors, which really forced foreign investors to not own more than 50% of any investment. That was scrapped in early 2018. The government has also undertaken that to ensure that every investor is protected. The creation of my agency, ZIDA, is really testament to the fact that the government is committed to ensuring that every investor is safe. Any grievance that you have, and we are really honoring our word. So as far as investors are concerned, the government has not gone back on its word. But as far as investments are concerned, look, come and talk to us. We can structure it to your liking. Because what we also find with incentives, you may think that as a government you've come up with ideal incentives, but they might suit one particular player and not necessarily another one. And because of just the inability to tweak that or to tailor-make that incentive to that particular investor, you might lose that investment. So yes, we are open to incentives, provided we are adding or complementing to things that ordinarily our own local investors and industries are failing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, it brings to mind for me the idea of how perhaps businesses or entities, investors based in the UAE with interests in Zimbabwe might perhaps want to collaborate with our local institutions here. So one for you, please, Rungano. Could you walk us through the impact or the sorts of institutions that any investors in the UAE might be able to connect with, to leverage, as we partner up with the likes of ZIDA in Zimbabwe to ensure that smooth, if you like, transaction might take place from here across border?
Thank you, Mucha. So thank you for that. I think the first part that I would mention is the importance of the partnerships. And today we're talking about unearthing potential on the Zimbabwean side. But I think it also starts from where we are here in the UAE. How do we start unearthing that potential amongst ourselves here in the UAE? That's where the Zimbabwean Business Council, for starters, comes into play, working with the embassy to at least start the conversations with you at an early stage as you're asking questions about Zimbabwe, as you're looking for those opportunities to invest in Zimbabwe. We'll then be able to have those conversations with you. We'll also be able to work with you as we go to ZIDA and to further those conversations down the line. You'll also notice that partnerships work in two ways. As the Zimbabwean Business Council, we already have contact with over 30 Zimbabwean-owned businesses operating here in the UAE, and that number is growing by the day. So you'll find that there are people from Zimbabwe also doing business here in the UAE who you'll be able to connect with and also find out the conversations around doing business in both countries, if it's moving goods up and down, if it's just the contacts and the connections. Also from a ZIDA perspective, we're looking at them being the one-stop shop in terms of investment when you go to Zimbabwe. But they are mainly based in Zimbabwe. We are the conduit for you when you are here in the UAE, again working with the embassy to start those conversations at an early stage. And I personally believe that Zimbabwe is on a growth journey. The path that we are moving of growth and potential is huge, and we are encouraging you to come and work with us. you will see the relationship between the UAE and Zimbabwe is growing, as the ambassador has mentioned. 26 companies already invested in Zimbabwe, and that number is growing as well. So let's just work together, walk this journey together, and keep moving and build a better Zimbabwe.
And I think this seamless transaction, these seamless relationships starts to make quite an impact. Back to you then, Tafalfa, with the question. You know, when we hear about, I guess, the appetite, Dubai Expo was a great launch pad for many African countries, Zimbabwe being a net beneficiary of that platform. We're at a conference such as this, AIM, where all the dialogue really is about showcasing the best that we have to offer. We exist in a highly digitized world. How easy is it for an investor to be able to plug into the Zimbabwe system and not have to go through bureaucracy and speed of, if you like, converting into actual returns?
All right, thank you. Yeah, so this is something that, another reason why we were set up as an agency, as ZIDA, is that I think you remember those days there was the ease of doing business that was done by the World Bank. So I think that caught everybody's attention, that how easy is it for these things to happen and so forth. So that, I think, focused or drew our attention to address bottlenecks that we believe that may have been discouraging investors. So part of ZIDA's mandate at the time was to go up those rankings, and we did really make great strides. But I'll say that, so if an investor wants to come into Zimbabwe, we are your door to everything that happens in Zimbabwe. So we help you establish your company. So you see all these companies, a lot of them have now Zimbabwean sounding names and so forth, you know, such and such, Zimbabwe Private Limited. It's probably just an offshoot of a company here. So the first step obviously is to set up a company in Zimbabwe. We can do that for you in less than a day, right? Normally what takes time is ensuring that the name that you want to use is not already in use. And, you know, so once that's done, you know, it takes less than a day, you've got your company. You then also need to be registered with our tax authorities. You do that through us. It doesn't take a day as well. So to get our license as a foreign investor, because that license also ensures that whatever bidding you want us to do on your behalf, you know, we've got you on our database. We know exactly what your issues are. That doesn't take you more than a week. So in say, 5 days, you can literally be set up in Zimbabwe. Now, you obviously just don't want to get a license that you're an investor. You probably want to do agriculture, mining, or build a hotel or something like that. The one-stop investment services center that we've set up, we identified all the government departments and agencies that we believe interact the most with other investors in these areas. So within our office, we've literally got sub-offices of all these departments. You're talking of the tourism ministry, you're talking of the tax authorities, you're talking of the central bank, the Reserve Bank, you're talking of the Ministry of Mines, the Ministry of Agriculture. There are 21 in total such departments within our offices. Why is this important? When you want to go and mine chrome or prospect for chrome, right, or market chrome or whatever, you are going to need documentations of some sorts from those various ministries. You must appreciate that mining is quite a destructive enterprise. Environmental issues are there. So whatever we are going to do, you are going to need various clearances. You can't just build something without local councils and so forth. So all of that, you simply come to our office and we will do literally everything for you. You don't have to go anywhere. Again, if you have a problem, maybe you've now started operating and you run into problems, or I don't know, you misfiled something, your first point of contact or call is with the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency. We literally become your, I don't know, your hand holder through all this process. And another important function that we perform as well is that we are very big on aftercare, right? So those numbers I gave you, the 267 licenses that we issued last year to investors, you know, for us it's not just, it doesn't end there, that we issue you a license and off you go. we really do follow up. We recently launched on the 1st of April, we went live on a CRM system or a business enterprise system. Essentially, by the end of this year, from wherever you are right now, you can start that application process with us. You log into our portal, upload all the documents that you want. Electronically, your license will be issued. By the time you come and land at our airport, you would have an investor license. We can also take care of that. So that's just one way of doing it. So that portal also allows seamless communication between you and us on an ongoing basis. So we also want to find out how you're setting up, if there are any problems, if the local councils are treating you well, or whatever agency that you're dealing with at the time is going on well. So we ensure that every single year we get in touch with every single investor that we have to just find out how they're doing. And out of that, because of our position within the government structures of Zimbabwe, we are able to identify where all the problems are, what investors are facing, and through our centrality in government, we can advocate for change. And we have done that very well. I know maybe it's not a big industry here, but there were policies that were promulgated, that affected our medicinal cannabis producers. And we went out there and stood up for them, and the government actually stepped back. And those investors are now, a lot of them are actually exporting now unhindered, I think their products mainly to Europe and to the US. So that's a very, very big part of what we do every single day. But ultimately, we are the door to it. Come to our website, give us a call, take our contacts. You want to come to Zimbabwe, you come through us. And everything thereafter, we can do it. We can even set up for you meetings. So you may be excited here by the agricultural opportunities, and you really want to see where all this land is and what's going on. You give us a call, I'm coming on this day. Our team will pick you up at the airport, we'll take you around the country, we'll make you see whoever you want to see. So this is really why we are there. And that process, or your hassles, you offload them onto us, and we want you to just have a smooth and uninterrupted interaction with the opportunities that are there on offer in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you. So this one-stop shop model is appealing to many, I'm absolutely certain. Before we move across to a Q&A session with the floor, I've got one more question for you, please, Dr. Sibanda. The acoustics in here are a bit poor, so I hope that you can hear me okay. My final question to you is around, we said that we've got this youthful population. I mentioned the stats. The actual stat of our literacy rate in Zimbabwe is 93.7%, which is incredibly impressive, I believe. With this backdrop, to that conscious investor who's thinking about Zimbabwe, how are local Zimbabweans benefiting from FDI directly? So I just want to talk a bit about the ESG aspect of any investments that might take place in Zimbabwe.
Okay, I hope I got your question well.
Sorry, so I was just wanting to maybe just a very quick sense of how the environmental, social, in fact, let's stick to the social impact of any investment coming into Zimbabwe.
Okay, right. The investment in Zimbabwe will certainly help the whole country. If you come with your investment, we have the aspect labor. You don't have to bring anybody, engineer or any. Of course, you can bring those who are coming to maybe to teach the new equipment or new technology you are bringing. This will definitely help the whole population in the sense that we will have increased employment. Obviously, when we have increased the employment, we continue with our education. Our people, our children will be sent to school. Right now, Zimbabwe has got it's actually, if it's not the highest, the second highest in terms of literacy rate. But what we are not only interested in literacy, we are interested in our people getting the proper skills. I also wanted, moderator, I also wanted just to let you know that because of the skills we have, Zimbabwe has recently had its manufacturing survey, where the results showed that the capacity utilization of our big industries was at 60%. This is very good, considering that in about 2-3 years ago, a few years ago, our capacity utilization was almost at 10%. But we have turned the leaf, worked hard to ensure that the capacity utilization goes to above 60%. If you go to the market, our supermarkets in Zimbabwe, you will find that the shelf space of in the supermarket has got above 80% of local products. So this shows that there is a potential for you to go and invest in a country which is already hardworking. And the people who are there are ready. They are ready for you. What it means is there is a population which is ready to work, and they are well known to be hard workers. I'm sure some of you are employing them here. They are hard workers. They are just hard workers. It's natural. Thank you.
So there you go, a ready workforce in Zimbabwe for anyone looking to set up shop. My final question to you, Rungano, as an individual who's lived in the diaspora for as long as you have, I think it's one thing to have people come from Zimbabwe and tell us about changes that they're seeing, but from the outside looking in, what developments have you seen in Zimbabwe that create, a sense of confidence for anyone who's looking to put their money into the country?
All right. I think the one thing that I will start by is the re-engagement and the engagement. You find that the level of access that the investor and us living in the diaspora now have to Zimbabwe has improved in the past couple of years. For us in the UAE, with the setup of the embassy, we've seen that relationship grow. So I think as a starting point, that access, that partnership is something that we have really seen grow. We've seen all these companies that are already investing in Zimbabwe, which means that the enabling environment for setting up is in existence as well. The rallying call that we then give is away from what you might be reading on the newspapers, away from what the media might be saying. The important thing is to visit Zimbabwe and see for yourselves the great opportunity that is there.
Wonderful. So you've heard us speak. If you've got anything that you've picked up on that you'd like to ask our panelists, this is your opportunity to do so. Any questions from the audience, please? Okay. If I could get support, please, with a microphone for the gentleman who wants to ask a question. Thank you. Yes. So we're just bringing a microphone across to you. Thank you, sir. Okay, if we could get support with a microphone, please.
another question.
All right. Well, can I just line up our questions for now? So that's question number 1. Could I have a secondary question, please? We are going to come back to you, Sipho. Just one more question, because we are running out of time.
There was one in the
There's a
front.
gentleman at the front who wanted to ask, or the lady in the front. Yeah.
Very good morning, all of you. My name is Sajid Kumar, and the group CMD of IAC International Group. I have 3 points in the perspective of investment to Zimbabwe. First point, can you please explain about the foreign direct investment and the investment allowed from the private sector to Zimbabwe? Is it possible for 100%? Second point, it's coming to the PPP, public-private participation, the possibilities. Is there any opportunity? And third thing for the scheme, special purpose workers, what kind of support the government of Zimbabwe will endorse whenever the scheme is enacted to support the international investors? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, sir. So I'm obviously going to start with you, Tafazo, if I may.
No, it's all right. So thanks for the questions, and we appreciate the candor and the frankness, and we'd like to, respond in the same manner as well. So for the gold opportunities, look, Zimbabwe is, okay, like I've said, we have been mining gold in Zimbabwe ever since 1890. There's nothing new about mining gold in Zimbabwe. It's been done by all kinds of companies. I'm sorry for your experience that you had, but I would like to just come back to you and say that come through us again and let's try it again, right? Corruption, you're going to find it elsewhere. I don't know what channels you use to get into Zimbabwe, but certainly if you come through us, I've not had a problem in that. So gold in Zimbabwe is literally everywhere. Now, for those who are not familiar with our geography, there's an area, or rather, it's like a spine that runs across the country. It's like a range of mountains called the Great Dike. Around there is where pretty much a lot of this thing is happening. Mining activity is happening everywhere, right? So literally, I think there is a joke that if you dig deep enough under your house, you're going to hit a gold seam, right? So gold is everywhere. So you can imagine the number of characters that are in gold. So I'm sorry for your experience, but I'd really like to encourage you once again to try us, again, give us a go, and I'm sure that we can change that. In terms of incentives, like I said, the thinking to the government of Zimbabwe, and it's something that we adhere to, or rather, work towards, is that the investment itself is the main incentive, right? The moment you come to us because of the incentives, it's not really about the business itself. So that's okay, that aside. So the things that you talk about, getting foreign currency out, again, that's why I'm saying that we want to talk from a practicality point of view. I'm talking to these investors here. This is what I'm saying, that experience it for yourself. Our economy is essentially dollarized, and in gold in particular, all the transactions are in dollars. You would not have a problem. So that's why I'm saying that I really want to understand more of what happened in your case and how these things became a problem, right? So I know, okay, so there is a policy from the central bank that when you export and you receive money, you retain now 85% of that foreign currency in your account. Now, 85%, if you are retaining that and you still don't, it should be more than enough for you to repatriate profits, dividends, and so forth. But anyway, I'd like to engage you further on that. And to you, sir, I think your question was on FDI and things like that. There are no restrictions. There are no, so there are no limitations. I know you came in a bit late, and I had covered that in my earlier presentation. But we don't restrict in terms of ownership by foreigners. There used to be such a thing. It was abolished in 2018. So now a foreigner can own 100% of any enterprise in any country. It's your choice if you want to partner locals. Like I said, we are not really, we've been industrialized for a long time, right? It's just that investment has been lacking. So they are, it makes sense, I guess, in a lot of instances to partner locals, but it's really up to you. It's your call. If you believe that that opportunity does not appeal to you, you don't have to do it. Private triple Ps or public-private partnerships, one point that I emphasized earlier was that we've been denied concessionary funding from DFIs for a long time. So all that we've done over the past 25 years or so is internally generated, and it's really credit to the ability and the resolve that we have as a people to achieve this. So as my colleague said just now, with the world accepting us, more, our president was recently at the coronation, something that you would not have seen a few years ago. So this is the re-engagement that we're talking about. It's opening up, and with it opening up like that, I think people are beginning to see more what Zimbabwe is all about, what is possible. So one area that the government has focused on with this opening up is that the realization that our infrastructure really needs a serious upgrade. Back in the 70s, 80s, we had fantastic infrastructure, but with infrastructure, you've got to resurface those roads every so often, the lines have to be maintained, the power lines have to be maintained, water pipes have to be upgraded. That has not happened. That, for us, is the biggest opportunity for triple Ps. So we've got a whole schedule, a list of what triple Ps are available. And this is where now incentives really do come in, because by their very nature, this public infrastructure is not typically, something that a private player goes into, for the money. It's a very long-term game, and this is where, again, that's why I was saying that for us, incentives are more project-specific. And these things that we're willing to talk to you about. So that we have a whole list of those. You are free to identify again where you believe that maybe there's a new technology that's coming out in the world which we are missing out on, and perhaps a particular council or a local government or a government department might benefit from, through a triple P. Again, you're more than welcome to that. And then SPVs, I think I've kind of touched on that, but how you set up these things is really up to you. It's really more of your business plans and what you hope to achieve as an investor in the country. Thank you.
Brilliant. So we've come to the end of our time. Unfortunately, so much more to discuss, and we do have the opportunity to do so offline. You've got the panelists around for a little bit longer. I know that there's another session coming up, but if you can't get hold of them after this session, please do go to the ZEDA website. Ambassador, would you be so kind as to give some closing remarks, just a few remarks to close this session, please?
Thank you very much. I think this has been a great opportunity for us to engage. This was a mere introduction, and as Mucha says, the panelists and others in the team are available. Please do visit our booth, our information booth. We are here, and this is precisely what we came for. Thank you very much for setting aside your time at this busy event. Thank you for setting aside your time to spend with us, and we hope we have whetted your appetite for more engagement with us. So, meet you in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.